farthest edge of western Westeros, far from the sun-scorched plains of Dorne, in a small stone structure called the Tower of Joy, a woman was dying. Lyanna Stark, taking her final breaths, had only her brother Eddard beside her. She whispered something. She showed him the baby she placed in his arms. Ned made a promise, and that promise would launch and define the entire story of the man we would come to know as Jon Snow. Welcome to Extreme Stories. Today we are not doing an ordinary character analysis. We are examining from beginning to end, and based on the books, how bastardy, identity, moral duty, and self-sacrifice can build and then break a man. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, this is a perfect moment to do so. To understand Jon Snow and George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series, you must begin by understanding who he is not. Because this story began with the wrong name, the wrong surname, and the wrong origin. Jon grew up in Winterfell, the capital of the North, as the bastard son of Lord Eddard Stark. In Northern tradition, bastards bore the surname Snow. It was both an acknowledgement and a brand. He was recorded as Jon Snow, and the world knew him as such. Nothing was ever said about his mother. Ned almost never answered questions on the subject. Even when King Robert Baratheon asked him directly, he only said the boy was born to a woman named Willa he had met during the war and moved on. But for those who knew Ned Stark, this was not enough. Ned was a man who placed honor at the foundation of his entire life and hated lying more than almost anything. His fierce adherence to such an ordinary lie was a clear sign that he was hiding another truth. To understand what happened in the Tower of Joy, one must look at the political crisis of the time. Rhaegar Targaryen was the heir to the throne and one of the most talented warriors of his era. He was also a deeply melancholic, prophecy-obsessed, extraordinary figure. Lyanna Stark was Eddard's sister and betrothed to King Robert Baratheon. It was said that Rhaegar had abducted her. This rumor both legitimized Robert's war and the fall of the Targaryen dynasty. But Martin, through carefully placed clues between the lines in the books, points to another truth. Lyanna had not been abducted. The two had come together of their own free will. Rhaegar was already married to Dornish Elia Martell at the time. The exact legal framework of this union is not fully clarified in the books, nor is it yet resolved whether the child born was considered legitimate. What mattered was this: Lyanna lost her life after giving birth. She succumbed to blood loss. In her final breath, she whispered something to Ned, and in the books, this whisper becomes 3 dots and an ellipsis. Martin did not complete the sentence, but when Ned left that room, he had a baby in his arms, and hiding the existence of that baby would become the beginning of a secret that would mortgage Ned's entire honor, reputation, and peace of mind for years to come. In this context, Jon being raised as a bastard was Ned's only available option. Robert Baratheon was determined to wipe out anyone carrying Targaryen blood. Indeed, the infant Aegon and his sister Rhaenys had already been brutally murdered in King's Landing. To protect the child from that fate, Ned sacrificed his own honor. All of Westeros accused him of infidelity. Catelyn and everyone else believed Ned had fathered a bastard child with a woman during the war. Ned did not deny it, because the only alternative was to reveal the child's true identity, which would have delivered him to death. Ned named him Jon, taking the name from his great friend and mentor, Jon Arryn, Lord of the Vale. The surname was Snow, the cold surname borne by bastards of the North. Thus, Jon grew up knowing nothing about himself. His physical appearance was unmistakably Stark: dark brown hair, gray eyes, a long and stern face. Years later, Tyrion Lannister would express this with striking honesty. Whoever his mother was, little of her remained in the boy. But Jon's inner world was far more complex than his exterior. He grew up in Winterfell, right in the middle of the Stark siblings. For 7 years, he sat at the same table, ran through the same halls, and attended the same lessons. Robb would inherit the lordship. Sansa was raised to be worthy of a prince. Arya swung swords, practiced archery, and lived in boundless freedom. Bran climbed walls, and Rickon ran wild. Jon, however, carved out his own corner within this picture, the edge. He would enter the Great Hall during feasts, but when noble guests arrived or official ceremonies were held, he was not called into the room. Catelyn Stark never made peace with him. This is seen with extreme clarity in the chapters told from Catelyn's own point of view in the books. She felt him as the living proof of her husband's betrayal. There was a passion in her body language, her glances, and the things she left unsaid that sought to erase Jon. She did not beat him, starve him, or openly humiliate him, but she was cold, distant, and that distance contained an active rejection. Jon felt it and internalized it. Perhaps the most devastating thing a child can feel is a gaze that erases you without destroying you. Ned tried to close this gap. He did not treat Jon differently from his other children, trained with him, called him for long conversations, and spent time with him. But a father's best intentions could not fill the void left by a mother's absence. Arya and Robb were the siblings Jon was closest to. The bond he shared with Robb carried the warmth and brotherhood of childhood. The two had found the direwolves together, trained together, and Robb was the one true partner he could lean on. Arya occupied a separate place. Both were somewhat outsiders within the family. Both lived with a rule-breaking spirit. Jon had given her the small sword needle. That gesture was not merely a gift but proof that Jon truly understood Arya. These two relationships would later become the emotional roots shaping Jon's decisions. Understanding Jon's bastard psychology is essential because it forms the foundation of his entire story. The desire to earn fame and honor was not an ordinary ambition for a bastard. From the moment he was born, the surname he carried was the symbol of his deficiency, Snow. The bastards of the North bore this surname, and the only way to erase it was to prove himself. He wanted to make himself worthy of the Starks, to belong to a chosen family not through love but through performance, to live security not unconditionally but as something earned. His decision to join the Night's Watch was built on this desire, and the words Tyrion Lannister spoke during their journey to the Wall could have helped him see the hidden danger within that desire. But they did not. Bastards and dwarfs, Tyrion had said, must learn who they are and what they are, because the world will throw it in their faces sooner or later. Jon heard the warning but did not fully internalize it. He saw the Night's Watch as the address of honor. His uncle Benjen Stark was there. Great epics had taken place there, and the massive ice structure itself appeared to him as the concrete embodiment of courage. When he first stood before the wall, it was impressive. In the books, it is described as 700 feet, roughly 213 meters high, a frozen great fortress marking the northern border of Westeros. But its inhabitants were not so impressive. The great majority of those who joined the Night's Watch were people cast out or punished by society, thieves, murderers, debtors, and rapists. Jon, however, was a young man who had received private sword lessons in Winterfell, had been well fed, and already stood at a different starting point from those around him. This difference inevitably created a hierarchy. In training, he easily outpaced the others. This came not from his arrogance, but from his circumstances. But the result was the same. The new recruits found him condescending and some hated him. Samwell Tarly appeared right in the middle of this dynamic. Sam was a fat, cowardly lord's son, who was terrified of holding a sword and was bullied every day. At first, Jon remained a spectator. Getting involved was not in his nature, and making unnecessary enemies while trying to establish himself in a new place did not seem wise. But one day, something stirred. Perhaps he saw his own outcast status in Sam, or perhaps his inner sense of justice simply prevailed. He began protecting Sam and told the others to adopt the same attitude. This decision was one that brought him no direct benefit, yet was the right thing to do. And throughout his entire story, Jon Snow made decisions of this kind. He tried to do what was right even when it brought him no advantage. This trait both made him a great leader and ultimately destroyed him. Lord Commander Jeor Mormont quickly recognized Jon's potential. Mormont, known as the Old Bear, was one of the rare commanders who truly cared about the Wall and understood the seriousness of the threat. He chose Jon as his steward. This was not a reward, but preparation. In one night, a reanimated corpse, ice cold with nothing in its eyes, entered the Lord Commander's chamber and gave Jon both a price to pay and an opportunity to prove himself. He set fire to the curtains and burned the creature. Even though his own hand burned, he did not move. The next day, Mormont gave him Longclaw. When he handed Jon this Valyrian steel sword, which had remained in the Mormont family for generations, it was not merely a reward, but an inheritance. Jon did not refuse the gesture. Refusing would have been unfair. Longclaw became an extension of his hand from then on. Ghost occupied a separate place in this picture. Jon's direwolf was different from birth. Found apart from the litter, white as snow and silent. Martin carefully developed the spiritual bond between the direwolves and the Stark children in the books. Bran slipped into summer in his dreams. Arya felt Nymeria while she slept. Jon also carried this ability. He was one of the rare wargs who could enter the minds of animals. But he experienced it unconsciously, through dreams. The moments he saw the world through Ghost's eyes were clues to the much larger picture Martin had prepared for Jon. Throughout the years he spent at the Wall, these experiences came as dreams, were suppressed and ignored. Jon saw Ghost not as a tool, but as a silent companion. His bond with the wolf was perhaps the most sincere consolation of his bastardy. While others tried to tame and control their direwolves, Jon never attempted it. Ghost did what he wanted, and Jon respected that. This detail may seem small, but it tells the essence of his character. Jon avoided putting others in the chains that confined him. These clues had not yet surfaced at that time, but in the final moment, as he collapsed on the snow, this ability would stir one last time. When the Great Expedition began, everything changed. The Night's Watch marched north to search for the missing Benjen Stark and to learn the true intentions of Mance Rayder the King, beyond the Wall, who had united the wildlings. They stopped at Craster's Keep. Craster was a disgusting man who married his own daughters and gave his sons to the darkness. The Night's Watch knew this and turned a blind eye because Craster was a valuable source of information. When Jon learned this, it twisted his insides. Realizing that Mormont knowingly ignored it created an even more complex feeling. Moral compromises were being made to keep the institution's wheels turning. Jon confronted this reality for the first time here, and this confrontation would lay the groundwork for the decisions he would later make as Lord Commander. At the Fist of the First Men, Ghost dug something up. He found obsidian weapons and a horn wrapped inside an old Night's Watch cloak. This black glass, also known as dragon glass, was one of the materials that could kill the others. No one fully grasped it at the time. But this find was one of the major clues Martin placed throughout the series. Jon reported the find to the Lord Commander, and for the time being, it stayed there. When they climbed the Skirling Pass with Qhorin Halfhand, Jon's life changed irreversibly. This experienced ranger from the Shadow Tower led a small scouting party and chose Jon to accompany him. Inside the pass, they encountered a group of wildlings. They killed them all. But when Jon realized one of them was a woman, he lowered his sword and did not kill her. That woman was Ygritte. Red-haired, hard-eyed, a spearwife scout. Qhorin accepted this, but soon the situation reversed. When they were captured by Rattleshirt's group, Qhorin gave Jon a great task. He was to infiltrate the wildlings, become one of them, and work as a spy. But for it to look real, he had to kill Qhorin. The two warriors faced each other. It was partly a performance, but also a real fight. Qhorin truly struck, truly resisted. Ghost attacked as well, and Qhorin Halfhand died by Jon Snow's sword. Jon stood before the wildlings as a traitor who had killed his own Night's Watch brother with his own hand. This moment is described with extreme weight in the books, because Jon knew it was right, but that knowledge did not lighten the burden even by a gram. Mance Rayder was not the man Jon had expected. When he entered Mance's tent, he did not find the big, imposing man he had anticipated. At first, Tormund Giantsbane stood before him, chicken in hand, mouth full, roaring with laughter, creating a perfect wildling scene. Jon thought he was Mance. Then Tormund said, "Turn around, maybe you'll find what you're looking for." And when Jon turned, he saw the real Mance Rayder, ordinary, unassuming, unremarkable. The small scene is a perfect example of Martin's way of presenting characters, subverting expectations. While talking with Mance, Jon understood why the wildlings wanted to go south. Something had awakened north of the wall. The White Walkers, the others the ancient threat in Martin's deep mythology, were advancing south, and the wildlings had to move south to escape that pressure. When Jon heard this, for the first time he sensed that both sides feared the same thing, and that the real enemy lay behind both of them. Ygritte stayed by Jon's side throughout this process. After joining Tormund's group, she was constantly next to him. At first, Jon kept Ghost between them and maintained distance. One day, Tormund told him the truth. According to wildling tradition, a man who killed the people around a woman and left her alive had stolen her. Without realizing it, when Jon had taken Ygritte prisoner, he had formed that traditional bond. "You know nothing, Jon Snow." Ygritte said this sentence for the first time during a march, calmly and sharply dismantling Jon's assumptions about the world one by one. Over time, this sentence became a motif. It was a sharp mirror showing how narrowly Jon viewed the world even when he thought he understood it. During the time they spent together, Jon truly changed. Ygritte was not only provocative and harsh, she was a woman with a deep worldview, bitter wit, and warming warmth. She told Beal's song, the old legend claiming Stark blood was mixed with wildling blood. Jon denied it but thought about it. The wildlings' understanding of freedom, their culture of answering to no one, their effort to exist together without lords or kings. These things blurred the sharp lines in Jon's mind. When they came together in a cave, Jon knew he had broken his vow. But he did not stop it in that moment. This choice was not a weakness of his character. It was his humanity. Martin wrote it without judgment and without giving a moral lesson. And this authorial stance is what made Jon real. When the time to return came, Jon left. He knew the wildlings' plan. They would circle Castle Black and strike from the south. This information was vital for the Watch. He escaped the wildling camp, turned his horse, and Ygritte's arrows found his body, but did not stop him. Wounded, he reached Castle Black. The Battle of Castle Black was the moment Jon Snow fully emerged as a military leader. The two-pronged attack began. Mance's main army from the north and a small but fierce vanguard led by Tormund from the south. Donal Noye, the blacksmith and former soldier, held the gate by clashing with the giant Magmar Tún Do Weg. Both died. Up on top of the wall, Jon commanded the defense. In the end, the southern front collapsed and Jon came down. Donal Noye had earlier soaked the stair landings with oil and then set them ablaze. This trap trapped the Thenns with Styr inside. As the wall's own ice cracked and broke from the heat, the stairs collapsed with everyone inside. Martin wrote this moment with a single thought: the wall defends itself. The heaviest moment of this battle was when Ygritte was hit. The arrow came from a watchman's bow. Ygritte fell into Jon's arms. She said nothing. Martin did not put it into words. She simply looked at him, and her eyes closed. Jon held her there. In the middle of the battle, amid the noise, her heart stopped. The intensity of this scene in the book is undeniable. Martin buried the pain in the page without even allowing time to mourn. Stannis Baratheon arrived with his army at that moment. Unexpected, sudden, and decisive. Mance's great army was scattered, and Mance himself was taken prisoner. Jon suddenly became both a hero and a suspect. On one hand, a warrior who had effectively commanded the battle, on the other, a sworn brother who had broken his vows. Names like Alliser Thorne and Janos Slynt emphasized the latter. Jon was arrested and interrogated. Maester Aemon could read Jon's intentions. He knew him and trusted him, but politics ultimately worked through other mechanisms. Stannis made Jon a separate offer. Winterfell is yours. Take the Stark name. Assume the lordship of the North. One must consider the weight of this offer. All his life, Jon Snow had dreamed of being a Stark, of carrying the name belonging to those lands, finding a family beyond Catelyn's coldness. Stannis laid exactly that desire before him, and Jon refused. In the books, this decision toward the end of a storm of swords crystallized at a very concrete point. Accepting Stannis' offer would require Melisandre to burn the godswood in Winterfell, the weirwood tree dedicated to the old gods that had stood there for centuries, in the name of R'hllor. While looking at Ghost, Jon thought about this. His wolf's red eyes reminded him of the weirwood's eyes. Burning that tree would be burning everything he had grown up with. This refusal was one of the purest moments of his character. The Lord Commander election developed unexpectedly. Sam Tarly nominated Jon, ran a campaign, and held conversations in back rooms. Jon knew nothing about any of it. When the votes were counted, 2 candidates were tied. Sam made a decisive move at the last moment, and the balance broke. Jon had won. 998th Lord Commander. When he received this news, he could not believe it. He had not applied to become Lord Commander. He had not demanded leadership, but now this responsibility was in his hands, and refusing it would have been an even greater betrayal. The Lord Commander period was the real testing ground for Jon Snow's character. On one hand, the others were growing. Every corpse that died north of the Wall joined their army. The math was simple. Refusing to let the wildlings pass the Wall meant facing them later as risen corpses. Within this logic, opening the gates to the wildlings was the only strategically correct option, but the Watch either could not grasp this truth or did not want to accept it. Jon made this decision and opened the gates. Thousands of wildlings passed. The great majority of the Watch read this as betrayal. During this period, Jon also made important personal decisions. He sent Maester Aemon south. He wanted to protect the old blind man from Melisandre's search for royal blood. He also sent Gilly and Mance's baby with him. Moreover, he had secretly switched Mance's real son with Gilly's child. Sam was sent to the Citadel. The Watch needed a maester, and Sam was the most suitable candidate. Jon constantly distanced the people he loved from himself to protect them, but this form of protection left him one step more alone each time. Hardhome was the moment the threat became concrete. Ships were sent to rescue the wildlings trapped in that distant northern harbor. The news that returned froze the blood. The dead were walking. The rescue operation suffered heavy losses. Disinformation showed that the threat Jon had sensed for years had now come within arm's reach. The others were not a rumor. They were a real, growing, and approaching destruction. Then came the pink letter, bearing Ramsay Bolton's signature and sealed with a pink wax. This letter contained deliberate poison. It claimed Stannis had been defeated. It said Mance Rayder had been captured, and it directly threatened Jon. The letter addressed Jon as bastard. No title, no respect, only a cold insult. In the books, it has still not been definitively established who actually wrote this letter or how much of its content was true. It remains debated. But its effect was undeniable. Jon was struck at his most sensitive point, the threat to his family, and for the first time, he truly faltered. He went to the meeting. He announced that he would march on Winterfell with the wildlings and the Watch to confront Ramsay Bolton. This violated the Night's Watch's most fundamental law. Do not take sides in the wars of the South. Do not clash with the lords of the South. A Lord Commander could not order this, and for the great majority around him, this was the final straw. In the courtyard, when one of the giants who had joined the fight was tearing apart Sir Patrick of Stannis' men. In the middle of the chaos, before anyone could fully understand what was happening, someone approached Jon. For the Watch, he said. The first knife plunged in, then another hand, another knife. Then one more. Then one more. 4 knives, 4 hands, 4 men. Jon collapsed to the ground. The snow was bright red, and in that final moment only one thing formed in his mind: Ghost. He murmured his direwolf's name. This detail in Martin's book was not accidental. At the threshold of death, Jon was trying to pass his consciousness into his animal. Because he was a warg, one of the rare humans who could enter the minds of animals, this ability stirred one last time in that dark moment. And the book ended there. A Dance with Dragons, published in 2011, left the story frozen on that red stain on the snow. The Winds of Winter, Martin's sixth book, which has not yet been published, must continue from this point. Melisandre was at Castle Black. Ghost was still alive. The Azor Ahai prophecy had been on readers' minds for years. The hero figure reborn from fire. Melisandre knew that Doros Samir had brought Beric Dondarrion back to life multiple times. This created a precedent showing that R'hllor could reverse death. Jon's warg ability left another door open. When death came, he might have passed into Ghost. These two possibilities were not closed in the books. Martin did not explain it, and this ambiguity was one of his most deliberate choices as a writer. Now let us pause analytically and evaluate Jon Snow's psychology as a whole. Martin constructed this character as a perfect study of how bastardy shapes a person. He treated the identity issue not as an abstract philosophical problem, but as a concrete psychological crisis reflected in behavior. Jon acted with the drive to prove himself, but this drive also pushed him toward excessive self-sacrifice, self-abnegation, and ultimately isolation. He protected the people he loved, but always by distancing them. Sam left, Aemon left, Ygritte died. After every major decision, Jon stood one step more alone. On the other hand, Jon Snow's tragedy is built on paying the price for correct decisions. Letting the wildlings come south was right. It was strategic, humane, and far-sighted. But this correctness killed him. Reacting to the pink letter was understandable as a human being, but as Lord Commander it was destructive. Martin consciously built this contradiction. In moments when duty and being human must exist simultaneously, which one wins? In Jon, neither fully won. This was both his weakness and his most human trait. There is also this. Jon always stood at a more advanced point than the people around him. He saw the reality of the threat. He saw the path to the solution. But leadership is completed not only by seeing correctly, but by making the correct thing visible to others as well. Jon could not do that. He could not persuade, could not unite, could not build bridges. This was his only failure. But this failure cost him everything. And here it is necessary to state the fundamental difference between the books and the series. The Game of Thrones series presented Jon as a chosen hero archetype. Events flowed toward him, the world approved of him, and the audience watched him with joy. In the books, however, Martin cornered him at every step. Correct decisions made him less liked. Farsightedness was read by those around him as foolishness or betrayal. And this cornering made the character much deeper, much more painful, and much more lasting fictionally. Jon Snow is the story of the identitylessness created by bastardy, the drive to prove oneself born from identitylessness, the heavy responsibility brought by that drive to prove oneself, and the slow loss of self within that responsibility. The red stain on the snow is still fresh. When The Winds of Winter is published one day, you will want to return to this analysis. And on that day, Extreme Stories will be here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel.